excess of the government mandate, for having toilet paper in excess of the government mandate. These are precursors for the making of cocaine. And the government determined that if you had too much toilet paper, you must be a drug kingpin. And these people live on 38 cents a day. That's what the government provides for their housing and their food. So you can imagine the horrors in that facility in Cochabamba. But let's go ahead and play that segment from Bolivia, and we'll talk after that. Give me a call. Welcome to this edition of The Unvarnished Truth. Today we're here in Bolivia in the middle of Cato, which is a coca field approximately 40 meters by 40 meters, where these indigenous farmers, the campesinos, grow their coca in order to support their families. And here in Bolivia, this is not cocaine. This is sustenance. This is a very nutritious product which allows people to live at these high altitudes, to absorb more oxygen into their system, to work harder, to eat less, and to continue to live in very desperate situations. Now, a lot of folks like to use coca in a tea and food products, but most Bolivians tend to take a small amount and basically place it between cheek and gum thusly. You don't get a rush. You don't get a feeling of being high. What it does is take away feelings of hunger and of tiredness and allow you to persevere, because these people certainly do persevere. All right, now, you saw there, this was a warehouse full of tons of coca leaf. This is not cocaine by any stretch of the imagination. I mentioned earlier that some of the folks I met, everyone from the justice minister to the Christian minister to the prisoners to the prison guards were all chewing coca. Had a big wad in their cheek, just chewing it. And what it does is provide a little bit of energy, a little bit of lift, a little bit of ability to work a little harder to do your job at some high altitudes. When I was in La Paz, 14,000 feet, and we live in Houston. This is flat land. This is 60 feet above sea level here. But in La Paz, 14,000 feet, I found that I couldn't walk more than 10 steps up these, and the streets are, well, not 45, but they're 60-degree incline, and you can't walk at that altitude, not on your first days, certainly. And I found that chewing a little coca, and even had little coca candies available. But if you had that, it gave just a little boost that gave you a little more energy. Didn't turn me into an Olympic sprinter at those altitudes, but it did help. And I guess the point is, down there they don't have the influence of cocaine. They may be involved occasionally in making it. They may be exporting it for the high dollars, the 17,000% markup that the U.S. provides. But they don't have the cocaine problem with their children. Their children may use coca, but they're not doing cocaine. And I guess what we have to do is stop and think about it. Why is coca unavailable in America? It's not habit forming, it's not addicting, it is not harmful. In fact, it is highly nutritious. So what we have to do is stop and think about, why is this set up? And it happened about 100 years ago, basically. There was a group of men who saw gleaming profits in prohibiting certain drugs. And these were the same men who had the influence and the newspapers to put forward the lies, the propaganda, that this was all necessary, that somehow they were going to protect us from ourselves. And at that time, they handed that power, that ability, over to the doctors. They told them that, you know, you write a prescription only when it's necessary and so forth. But over the 100 years, that power has even been usurped from the doctors now. And the DEA has basically driven the number of pain doctors from about 20,000 10 years ago to now 5,000 people left willing to prescribe these, quote, dangerous drugs. Of $269 billion a year going to criminals and cops, politicians and pot growers, opium growers, traffickers and sellers, and corrupt officials of every stripe who make their bones by being tougher, though certainly not very smart, on drugs. Now, $269 billion. How can you envision such a number? How can we picture this sum? Well, first off, let me kind of outline a couple of things. First off, a cubic foot of cash in $100 bills is $2,304,000. So that represents $2.3 million. Now, a railroad car is typically 62 feet long. It's about 10 feet wide, 8 feet high. Now, each year in America, we give $69 billion to the cops, and that's enough to fill 9.6 railroad cars full with $100 bills. And each year we give $200 billion to the street corner vendor, the gangster, the cartels, and the terrorists to provide us with our recreational drugs. And that's enough cash to fill 27.96 railroad cars with $100 bills. This is enough cash every year to fill a train 2,331 feet long, stuffed with $100 bills. Now, as I said earlier, drugs are still cheaper, purer, and more freely available to our children than ever before. So that's a hell of a lot of money, isn't it? Now, where has that money gone? Is it saved in somebody's bank account? Is it buried in a mine shaft in Colombia? No, a lot of it flows back to the officials I mentioned earlier, the customs and border agents that get bribed to allow these products to cross the border. A lot of it also, though, goes to front corporations who then donate that money, contribute that money, if you will, to the campaign coffers of politicians right here in the United States, so they can continue this policy. The effort wasted on this drug war is enormous. It's outrageous. Cops, sheriffs, deputies, DEA, CIA, FBI, Justice Department, State Police, Rangers, U.S. military, Interpol, Customs, Border Patrol, IRS agents, Forestry Service. The list is endless of those involved in fighting the first of the eternal wars, the war on drugs. Meantime, the child molesters, the rapists, the murderers, and the terrorists only have to worry about the few members of law enforcement not currently engaged in drug traffic control, an ongoing bust, escorting pot processors to jail, testifying in court, or working on some 18-month undercover investigation. Behind closed doors, and I've talked to plenty of them, these politicians, judges, and law enforcement personnel agree the drug war is a failed, hopeless policy, yet when the corporate media puts that microphone in their face and that camera in their face, they revert to cannibalism. In order for them to thrive, they can't back down now. They insist on maintaining the lie so they can continue devouring our children's lives and futures. The oil barons, I don't even want to get into that. We gave up our liberty to choose our own medicines in 1914 in exchange for supposed security regarding drugs. We're being forced now to give up additional, even unknown liberties in exchange for supposed protection. That's what this drug war is about, to protect the children, to protect the neighborhood,